reminds me a lot of the civil rights movement in the 1960s. Between 1962 and 1965, 25 American cities burned. And they burned because of civil rights, failure to move on civil rights. And they burned because the majority of blacks and non-whites lived in these American cities. And we're going to see the same thing now. And in many ways, it's been a hell of a week. Not only do we have these deaths in custody, the death in custody, which matches all these other things that happen in Baltimore and New York and other places. We have 100,000 people have died. That's our milestone now. And we have a president who's looking in the other direction as we have events in Hong Kong and other places. And we don't seem to have any answers to this. I mean, the black community is very angry, and the progressives in the United States should be very angry too. There hasn't been much done for blacks or non-whites in America in the past 20 years. In many ways, this is the worst thing I've seen since 9/11, because we seem to be without any direction on this. The president has ducked for cover, and you notice today the White House is temporarily locked down. I mean, it took a riot in Washington to lock down the White House when Lyndon Johnson was there, and it took an anti-war protest in Washington to lock down the White House when Richard Nixon was there. So it gives you an idea. And you know, it seems like a million years ago since Barack Obama was president of the United States. I mean, this is out of control. And if you look very carefully at these crowds that you see on your TV screen, these are black and whites. This is not just a black protest. This is a human rights protest across America. And a lot of people are very, very angry. And then right now they're searching for a leader. Is that leader going to be Vice President Joe Biden? I don't know. I heard his speech today. Is very moderate, very, very circumspect about what to do next. And you know, on top of everything, he's running for president of the United States. So can you imagine more on somebody's plate than this in one day?
I mean, it's absolutely crazy scenes is what we can see now on our screens. Professor, how can US leaders address this systemic racism?
Well, look, it's been there a long time. There have been, since I was born, enormous developments in the black and Hispanic and even the ethnic community. These people are now in the Supreme Court. They've been elected president and governors and representatives and senators. It's been enormous, but we still have an enormous way to go. These people have been left out of America's prosperity. They were left out of American prosperity in the 1950s and then in the 1960s. And they're in places where there is no hope. They've been locked down for a couple months in places that are uninhabitable in many respects. And so we have to figure out how to bring them into American life, or at least to assuage their fears. And right now, if you're a black in America, your chances of being killed in a traffic violation or being just picked up for anything are about 5 times more than a white guy. Now, this cannot be a coincidence. We have this problem with the police force. Now, look, 95% of the police forces around America are doing a pretty good job. It's the 5% that are rotten apples that are causing all the problems. The trouble is that when the rotten apples take over, the rest of the police don't know what to do because they have a code of silence. These police unions around America would be arguing that the officers did what they had to do. But look, in this case, we got pretty swift justice. We got one guy picked up on third-degree murder and manslaughter charges. The others are going to be probably picked up for depraved indifference or whatever the crime is in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And keep in mind, Minneapolis, St. Paul is a very calm city. For this thing to break out there gives you an idea how deep it is. As some of your viewers may have remembered the Mary Tyler Moore Show and how light and easy it was to live in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Well, it ain't that way anymore, as a matter of fact, because it's divided. But look, these great American cities have a very large concentration of non-whites, and they have been ignored for a long time, and they've been ignored to their detriment, of course, during the coronavirus pandemic. I mean, they had the largest numbers to die outside the post-65 groups. So look, there's something wrong here, and the president is usually the person who has to address the issue, whether it is with blue ribbon commissions or with special legislations. But you notice that all the senators and others who've been speaking for years about various things, they all go silent when this happens because they don't know what to do.
Well, it's certainly a very difficult situation, and even the pictures, as we can see, they're tragic, really. Professor, let's move on because I want to talk about what's going on at the moment in the background of all of this. Donald Trump says that the US will end trade privileges that it grants to Hong Kong after, as we know, China moved to impose national security legislation. This week, the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, he also notified Congress that Hong Kong should no longer be considered autonomous. Could this have ramifications in its trading relationship with the US?
Oh, absolutely. There are 1,200 American companies in Hong Kong who enjoy this special status. And what I mean by that is there are no visa requirements, there are no special taxes or imposts, and they don't get the tariffs that the mainland gets. So these companies are going to be looking for other places to go. They say they might figure that it's easier to go to the mainland than working through Hong Kong. Hong Kong, of course, is also the great financial capital and investment capital for a lot of Asia. So a lot of those places, a lot of those companies might take a hike. And of course, this doesn't add anything to the worldwide downturn in the economy. Now, the bad news is for the people who live in Hong Kong, particularly the young people between 20 and 29 years old, who are mainly highly educated, who are the protesters, is that the Communist Party of China is coming for them. They're going to bring their own organs in. They've criminalized secession and subversion, which means anything. They're going to criminalize, as you know, disrespect for the national anthem and stuff like that. So this is the opportunity for the Chinese, who've given up on the United States, by the way. Chinese leadership has given up trying to make deals with Donald Trump. They don't care anymore about the repercussions. It's very important for them to bring this uprising to a halt. They cannot expect to bring Taiwan to heel without bringing the people in Hong Kong to heel. And so it's all out. President Xi is going to try to create that greater China image again of bringing in Taiwan and Hong Kong. And he's going after Hong Kong because Hong Kong, these kids there who are making the trouble, they represent the beginning of the counter-revolution that the communists fear. Keep in mind, Danica, that the Soviet Union, the Bolshevik Party, lasted 73 years. China is celebrating its 70th year, and they know that there is a counter-revolution out there. That is, there is a wave that's going to run them over unless they do something. And there's only two ways to meet that. They could either integrate the enemy or they could beat them down. And so the Chinese, with their 90 million members of the Communist Party and their secret organizations, are going to beat the Hong Kong reform movement down, and Hong Kong will become unrecognizable in the years ahead. Yeah. So it's very, very bad news for the Western world because now we have to respond to it.